My name is Neil, as you can see here. And I'm going to talk about one of the projects we are having now in Colombia about supporting the peace process. The name of the program in Colombia is Colombia Científica, something like Scientific Colombia. And this program is part of an initiative from the government, let me say 6 years ago, in which the government tried to motivate the academy to work around different problems for the country. And the main condition was to interact between different universities, corporations, and institutions from the public sector, from the private sector. And we tried to focus during 4 years, more or less 4 or 5 years, about solving a particular problem in the country. Colombia is a big country. Colombia is a country of more or less 50 million people. In terms of geographics, the size of the country, I think it's comparable to the size of Germany as well. And I'm coming, it's a little bit bigger, 4 times bigger than, I'm sorry. And around 60% of the country is jungle. We have a very important part of the Amazonas. We have to take care of the Amazonas in Colombia. But I'm coming from the coffee region of my country. I'm based in Manizales. Manizales is one of the 9 places in which my university is located. I'm coming from the National University of Colombia, Universidad Nacional de Colombia. This is the biggest public university right now. It's top 3 it's top 3 in terms of universities in the country. We always say that this is the best university in Colombia, and I'm convinced that this is the best university in Colombia. We have, as a whole university, around 60,000 students, more than 3,000 professors. Our main campus is in Bogota. Bogota is exactly in the middle of Colombia. Bogota has more or less 60% of all indicators in the country. But we have also in 8 different parts of the country. One of these parts is in Manizales. Manizales is around 11% of the whole university, so have more or less 5,000 students, 5,000, 6,000 students from postgraduate and undergraduate programs. We are more or less 300 professors and other amount similar of administratives supporting the academy. And as Viviana said at the beginning, I'm a professor of the Department of Electronics Engineering. My studies at the level of doctoral and postdoctoral is in photonics engineering. I did my PhD and my experience, most of my experience in Denmark, in the Technical University of Denmark. But since 2 years, I'm the, let me say, the regional rector of the university in Manizales, because we have 9 campuses, and each campus has, let me say, a singular, a particular way of administration. We have local presidents, and I'm the rector in Manizales. But I belong to this program, Colombia Científica, as a researcher as well, not only as an administrative, also as a researcher. And this program was started 5 years ago, thanks to the initiative of the government, as I said at the beginning. We had a quite considerable amount of resources. And this particular program is about supporting the peace process. We have Colombia programs of Colombia Científica dedicated, for example, for cancer research as well in other part. We also have another program about energy and transition to other systems of energy. But this particular program is about rebuilding, trying to reconnect social dynamics, try to reconciliate some people and reduce in regions affected by the conflict. Very challenging research project because our country has suffered the conflict for more than 60, 70 years. Right now, we are in a transition. Since President Santos, Colombia started talking about peace. And we obtained, as a country, a successful peace process with the biggest guerrilla in my country. Since 4 years, more or less, Colombia is at least speaking about peace on the streets. Speak about peace was almost impossible a few years ago. But now we are trying to understand this new concept of peace. And we are trying to work about, as a society, to work as a society to construct that peace and really to establish certain equality between people living in my country. This is challenging. And people are talking about peace. But we still need to think a little bit more about this concept and try to really find ways to invite the academy to participate in this process of constructing peace, because it still is too abstract. And you can talk about peace in different scenarios, but in the academy, we need to find ways to really aterrizar. Exactly. Yes, this concept. We have been talking about applied peace, for example. A few weeks ago, I had the chance to talk to certain group of professors in University of Oslo in Norway. And I was asking about strategies to talk about applied peace. Basically, the question I want to ask you, and I would like to have answers from your side, is how can work as engineers, as economists, as scientists in different areas to really do things and try to construct peace. The example I'm going to give to you today is about this. So we are working in 3 different states. We call it internally in Colombia departments on this program of Colombia Científica. One of the departments is the state of Sucre. Sucre is the name of one department. I'm based in Manizales. Manizales belongs to another department called Caldas. But in Sucre, there is a region inside Sucre called Montes de Maria. In Montes de Maria, it's something like Mary's Mountains, basically. In Montes de Maria, they had the interaction of different political groups, armed as well, interacting, fighting for the field, fighting for the land, because it's a very rich land. They can produce there a lot of food. They also can have cows. They can produce, they can work with animals as well. And they were fighting for the land because they needed the land for other purposes for many years. So right now, the population in that region, in Montes de Maria, is a region almost completely isolated from the rest of the society. And they have also difficulties to enter informal educational systems. So it's a big land, very extensive land, but with few possibilities to really get educated. This is not so bad from the point of view of they have developed also something we call ancestral knowledge. So the families and the people can really understand nature differently from our way of understand nature. So they can read the plants, they can read the clouds, and they can predict certain situations in Montes de Maria just based on experience. So we identify the possibility of improving the connectivity because they don't have connectivity really in that Montes de Maria. And since this is my area of work, I designed a system based on one German technology called WIBAC. This WIBAC antennas, Wyback, were developed here, very close to here, actually, in Fraunhofer in San Agustin. So I was working together with Dr. Matthias Kretschmer. I will be visiting him in the next days. And the particularity of Wyback, antennas Wyback, is you can reconfigure the bandwidth. When you have an antenna, you can, of course, we know this, and I'm sorry if I'm explaining something too obvious, we can transmit information using antennas. With antennas, we can send information through wireless from one point to another point. But let me say, one of the advantages of this technology is you can control the bandwidth, the amount of information you want to send for different frequencies. So you can select the amount of information in which frequency, and you can control it. Another thing is these antennas are able to transmit information up to 20 kilometers far away. So you can locate one antenna here, another antenna 20 kilometers far, and then you can establish the link. You can reconfigure the bandwidth, you can increase the coverage, and you can also create something like a subsystem of antennas. So you have the main antenna, then you can create another sub-antenna to radiate Wi-Fi, for example, to provide the Wi-Fi connectivity to the users. So somehow you can have a map of location of users using that network you have created with Wyback antennas. So from that point of view, we envision something to install that network in Montes de Maria, in the middle of nothing, because the antennas are also, in terms of size, in terms of infrastructure, easy to install. So we were walking around the area, we were doing some measurements, electromagnetic measurements as well, and we were trying to find the best points to locate 3 antennas in Montes de Maria. 3 antennas located not 20 kilometers, but 5, 7, 8 kilometers. And then with this possibility of reconfiguring the bandwidth, we were providing a network for these people in Montes de Maria. In this presentation, I have an example, a central station, but this central station is not in Manizales. This central station is in one little city in Sucre. The name of the city is Chalán. There in Chalán, they can have internet from the main, let me say, backbone infrastructure, but the other antennas were located in the middle of the mountains in which people are living now. So we can transmit or extend the connectivity from the central station to the mountains, to the land inside the region. And then we were able to irradiate Wi-Fi up to 2 kilometers. It was not necessary to guarantee connectivity up to 10 kilometers because people are really not living in a very spread way. So they are concentrated in certain places in Sucre. But here, remember, we are working to construct peace. So our intention is not really to provide connectivity. The main question is really, what can we do with this network we have installed in order to facilitate this peace process in that region? So the main questions, the questions we were trying to answer in order to better use this technology in that region and try to construct peace are here. This is the 3 questions we were trying to answer. And basically, we want to implement a strategy based in collective intelligence in that region because we want to involve the community in the dynamics, social dynamics in that region. Right now, thanks to the peace process, these conflicts between guerrilla and other actors are really not occurring with the as before. They are really trying to interact in a different way. But these people were basically isolated and disconnected from the society and inside them. So basically, what we are trying to do now is to invite people living in that region to provide certain information that then we can use to design certain dynamics and help them, for example, to improve innovation or to sell the products they are producing, or basically try, for example, to create virtual communities and try to connect them first between them and then with other people in other regions. So we were asking inside us what benefits are associated with internet access for a user. Currently, we are using internet to download information, but they don't have really very well-established schools or institutions for education. So if you provide internet connection to certain people and you don't say the purpose of that internet, they can download whatever information. But in this case, we also want this connectivity and this internet to provide information to the network. So the purpose is not only download information, but upload information. So in that orientation, we were working in the program. The second question is, can these benefits contribute to the construction of an ecosystem model? The answer is yes, of course, because we can make certain collective diagnosis. For example, we can identify problems with virus. The farmers can provide information about certain situations with plants. They can share the information, and perhaps if we upload these alerts to the system, maybe we can identify early risks if, for example, certain diseases are coming to the region. So definitely, yes, we can identify benefits if we can invite the farmers and people to provide information using this platform. Is internet access equitable, uniform? How to characterize internet access? This is a very technical question. We were thinking about certain models to characterize the level of connectivity around the antennas, but I don't want to talk about these technical aspects. But these two questions are questions that we are still working on. And one of my purposes in this conversation with you is to ask you about what other situation or benefits or what other things you can imagine about these possibilities of having rural connectivity with these farmers. I don't know, I would like to know briefly your area of research. I don't know if you can share with me right now your area of research. I'm an engineer. I don't know if you want to tell me now. Sir, for example. Political scientist, thanks. You? An economist? Agriculture economist? And I would like to ask you, thank you, and I would like to ask you a very quick question. If we have the chance to transform every farmer in a natural sensor, human sensor of the environment, which questions would you ask to a farmer to answer? And for example, every week or every 2 weeks, in order to capture information and create a database to characterize the land and try to extract information useful for your research. Can you imagine a question or a couple of questions for the farmers? So you are in a region affected by the conflict. very rich in terms of land and the possibility to produce, I don't know, plants and cows and have animals. But you really don't know about the region. You really don't know anything about the region. And if you want to somehow help the community to develop a model of production, and you have this system with connectivity in which you can not only download information, but upload information, and also control the way of transmitting this information, you as ecologists, as a politician, as a political scientist, which questions can you imagine to ask for the farmers? Thank you very much. Yes. So somehow trying to identify the constraints. Thank you. How they organize themselves. Yeah, thank you very much. Management practices. The aspirations. Yes, and this is very important. Thank you. Yes, so this is right now the state of our program. So I want to invite you as a CEF or University of Bonn. I would like to invite you somehow to try to identify cooperation strategies to work, for example, in this way. So now the engineers are doing the technical part. So they have now the system, the network. We can work with this methodology of downloading information, but we can also upload information. And now we are constructing the methods, the methodology to extract information, to invite them to provide information. And then our work is using a database, using data management and other stuff. We need to think about how to identify patterns, for example. And then with this information, with the patterns identified, how we can go back to the community and try to help them in the development of models for improving commercialization. And so this is just 3 examples. One of the things we are going to do is we want to create a center of social and environmental diagnostics. So this is something like an observatory. So we have the technological infrastructure ready to collect information. And what we want to do is we have subregions. Each farmer can be considered as an agent. This person will be providing information. Of course, we need to define which information we can to extract. The farmer or people will be providing this information to a center point. This center point will be in one institution or university, the closest one to the region. And there we will be processing the information and trying to identify what's happening in the land, identifying, for example, early alerts about the health of plants and animals or other issues. This social is quite sensitive as well, because even though now the situation is a little bit better thanks to the peace process, still they are on risk. But if somehow we can collect this information, process this information, this social environmental center can be also a kind of protection for the families and for people. This is one of the things we are doing right now, the creation of this observatory over there. We want also to create virtual communities. These virtual communities have a different, let me say, structure, because in the first one, in the center, we need a central point of processing of the data. But in here, the communities can survive basically alone as well. So our people are, for example, producing ñame. Ñame, it's a kind of it's like a potato. Yeah, but it's another kind of alimento. Yes, yeah, exactly. Other are producing bags. So there are different aspirational, productive vocations. So there are different vocations inside the community as well. So our purpose is to connect people working more or less in similar fields, in similar areas. Try to connect them using this network. One aspect, very interesting aspect of WIBAC is WIBAC can also be treated as a super LAN. So the computers connected to the network are one network by itself, and it's not necessary to have internet to be really connected. Yeah. Since the main purpose is to provide information, of course, internet is important because you can communicate with the rest of the world. But in case that the internet connectivity is not working for any reason, you can be connected in any way. So here we are training the people over there to establish protocols of communication. So this is interesting. And for this, we also need specialized researchers, because this is not as easy as we can imagine. The communication between people is really a field of research as well. So we need to create protocols of communications in order to be able to create virtual communities, share interest, and try to help them as well. So this is the second target we have there. This is a little bit technical. So at the end, because one of the lines of the project is about innovation, we also want to slowly integrate research, prototyping, and marketing in the day-to-day of the people in that region of Montes de Maria. This is one of the challenges we have, because since the educational system is not strong enough, so we cannot spend 5 years more just to educate people in terms of research and innovation. So we have to find ways using, for example, online education, because now they have the possibility to download information as well using this system around research, prototyping, and marketing. This prototyping is not easy because we have to find, we have to create certain labs and so, but at least we can capture the ideas, we can create certain methods to do research at certain levels, try to put professors and other researchers from other regions working with the communities, listening to the communities and trying to identify lines of potential research, going back to the university, trying to help them in developing something. And then, according to the needs and the view and the of locals, then we can create certain ways of prototyping the best ideas just to install in the region and try to use these devices or inventions and help them for other stuff. And then the marketing. The virtual communities will help to do this marketing. One of the problems is they have, for example, bags. They can do beautiful bags, but they don't know how to sell it because there are no civil infrastructure, or simply they cannot go to the main cities and sell the bags. So in this way, we are propose this circle. We need to recognize the capacities and the projection of the territory. Then we need to identify certain talents, young people interested in doing this circle, and try to help them with certain courses using online teaching, but combining in a hybrid way also presential teaching. And then we need to articulate with universities that ideas, that research, and as I explained before, trying to go back to to bring back to the university the main ideas and develop it. So it implies teamwork. We need to redefine as well the best way of teaching. We cannot go there with classic teaching, because that's not the day-to-day of locals. And we need to create resources for digital education. And finally, we can have certain applications about this. We can do something like performance in the field. data acquisition is something we need to also work a little bit more, extract information, and then taking decisions about this information we are extracting. All of these, for example, in agriculture of precision or farming, precision farming. I don't know if here you are working in precision farming. This is something we can also bring to the region of Montes de Maria. And in terms of training and improving the capacity for locals, we need to work as well in autonomous learning. We need to create resources. And in here, we have a particular project, in my opinion, very interesting. Since the young people are basically alone, trying to go through this educational process, we need to create digital resources able to identify the way of learning of the young people. People learn in different ways. Some people are better, for example, interacting with figures or images. Other people are learning reading, and other are learning by equations or in abstract ways. So we need to create a digital resource able to identify the learning style, and according to the identified learning style, display the information and try to guide the user according to the learning style. This is something we call cognitive digital resources. This is a line of research we are starting in Manizales. So it's not only the PowerPoint, the plain PowerPoint showing the same slides to everyone, but the slides will be shown according to the learning style of the user. This is one research line we are developing. If we are able to have, let me say, dedicated slides adapted to the learning style, then we also need to imagine different ways of evaluate the learning process. So this is something we call interactive assessment. This is also needed in those regions in order to accelerate a little bit more the process of learning. I have to, yes, this learning style identification I have explained before, and then also take decisions about this. So this is basically the conversation I wanted to talk to you. I just want to thanks once again for this opportunity. And basically, my motivation to you is please think about what we can do with these people affected by the conflict using technology in order to help them to recognize talents, to work in a collaborative way, and how the university and the academy can learn from those experiences, adapt our way of working, because somehow we are also like in a, we are also as an academy isolated. Sometimes our solutions are not really usable for people, for example, affected by the conflict in a region like Colombia. Thanks so much for your attention. And I don't know if you want to ask questions and interact a little bit more. Thank you.